coastal force of the Vietnamese Navy, often called the Junk Force, has as its primary task the prevention of infiltration from the sea. To support this task, there are 27 coastal groups operating from 24 bases in 4 coastal zones. In the first coastal zone, there are 6 groups with headquarters here at Da Nang. In the second zone, there are 8 groups headquartered at Nha Trang. In the third zone, 7 groups operate from 5 bases with headquarters at Cat Lo near Vung Tau. And in the fourth zone, there are 6 groups located at 3 bases with headquarters here at An Toi on Phu Quoc Island. If you're assigned to this force as an advisor, a base in one of these coastal zones will be your home. It's safe to say the United States Navy never looked like this. There are no operating manuals to cover junks, even when they're motorized, as these are. But here you are, an advisor to the coastal force nevertheless, with a new respect for an embattled people. At first you had reservations about this new Navy, but then you saw the junkies in action, on patrol and surveillance missions, on occasional troop lift operations and anti-infiltration work. You also learned just how long and jagged is the coastline of this country, 1,500 miles and more, and how many junks and small craft there are in these waters. 50,000 would be a fair estimate. Most are engaged in fishing or peaceful trade, but not all. Some are in the service of the Viet Cong, and the junkie Navy tries to make it tough on them. By constantly stopping these craft and searching them, the Coastal Force has assisted in effectively denying the use of these waters to VC smugglers. The searchers look for infiltrators, weapons, or supplies that might be destined for the Viet Cong. If nothing suspicious is found, your counterpart will pass some psychological warfare materials and maybe some soap, cigarettes, or fishing gear to the people in the junk to help compensate for their inconvenience. When a search is being made, you keep your own weapon ready, just in case. If you're assigned to Coastal Group 37 of the Junk Force in the heart of the Delta, this is your base and your home. The buildings are of wood and corrugated metal, contained within a defensive enclosure fronting the water. In addition to barbed wire, the perimeter is walled with dirt embankments. The wire is inspected regularly, since Charlie likes to sneak up at night and cut the strands, just to make you nervous. The claymore mines used in base defense are also checked to be sure that Charlie hasn't turned them around to point back at the compound. The firing devices for these mines are retained by the base CO. At your base, when routine maintenance and repairs are necessary, junks may be hauled out of the water by manpower. However, overhauls and major repairs are done at repair facilities like this one at Coastal Zone Headquarters. The teredo worm, a type of wood borer, will eat into the planking and cause serious damage if the hull isn't painted each 6 months. But even with good maintenance, there will be some worm damage, so it's necessary for the junks to be overhauled about once each year. The engine usually needs overhaul at this time because of the heavy use. If your coastal group has a good maintenance program, the overhaul time will be shorter. You can help a lot in this area. A different kind of junk force base is the one at An Toi. This is on the tip of Phu Quoc Island, 165 miles from Saigon, in the Gulf of Thailand. New buildings have been constructed here, a decided improvement over the makeshift quarters used by the first U.S. naval advisors who served here. But this large island is by no means secured to us. The base is therefore enclosed and guarded. Charlie sometimes makes harassing attacks at night just to make sure nobody relaxes. After you've been here a while, you may find ways to be helpful in addition to your regular functions. Perhaps not all of the enlisted men are acquainted with the operation of the .30 caliber machine gun. With the commander's permission, you can help give instruction. Few of the men will understand any English, at most a few words of French. You will learn the Vietnamese equivalents for the weapons nomenclature. How to say, "That's right," or "No, that's wrong," and "That's very good." Teaching the operation or assembly of a weapon or piece of equipment is not too difficult. Implanting the idea of maintaining it may be a little more difficult, unless it's personal gear, something the man is personally responsible for. In any case, your tour of duty at a base like this can be enhanced by side activities like this. Your quarters may provide only the basic necessities, but considering everything, they're adequate. You invent your own daily routine. You can't simply shadow your counterpart, for he has administrative duties of his own. You'll consult with him before, during, and after operations, perhaps in logistical or training activities, but you can't just sit on his doorstep. You'll check the radio room every day. Among the routine radio traffic, there'll be occasional reports of VC activity in your district and possible trouble spots. Some radio operators have only recently learned their trade. You'll make allowances for possible garbling of messages and errors of translation. You'll take pains to make sure your own messages are clear and uncomplicated. This is the base medical dispensary. The corpsman is an enlisted man who has had some first aid training. Serious cases are treated by the doctor, who visits periodically, or are evacuated to the nearest hospital. You'll be taking your malaria tablets each week, and vitamin pills if needed. Dysentery is something you can expect at least once in your tour. A sick advisor is no help to anyone, so have the doctor check you over at reasonable intervals. This is the base armory. You'll find it a good idea to keep up to date on how many weapons are operable, how many rounds are available. The Viet Cong would like to get their hands on this. With weapons and ammo, strict security and accountability is mandatory. This may not have been the case when you first arrived, but you'll have made it your personal business since then. Food supplies are always purchased in the early morning hours because of the general lack of refrigeration. From time to time, you'll want to make purchases for yourself at the village market. The fresh fruits are usually good and inexpensive. They'll add variety and needed vitamins to your daily diet. A lot of the vegetables will look strange to you, but when thoroughly cooked, they're all right. You'll look twice before you buy any local meat. Unless it's on ice, be careful. French soft drinks, coffee, bread, and other foods were introduced here in the long French occupation of this country, and they still remain. At first, you'll be something of a curiosity to the village children, but they'll soon get used to you. Here's something else you get accustomed to. The sign is freshly made, probably put here last night. Translated, it reads, "We must make an all-out effort to defeat the new American offensive so that we can win our big victory in the 1966-67 season." It's the Viet Cong, letting the villagers know they're still around. You'll take your meals with your counterpart, and sometimes members of his family. At first, they may be a little stiff with foreigners at their table, but in time they accept you and relax. For lunch today, there's a soup with pieces of meat in it and a dish of green vegetables. Usually there will also be rice. Always on the table is the potent fish sauce that goes with every meal. It's called nukmam. As you get to know them, you'll learn that many junk force officers are ex-Army men, a fact that may surprise you. You'll realize that in this country, the Navy is distinctly subordinate to the Army, which is the senior service. Most officers are sensitive to the political climate in Saigon. Their future careers may well depend on it. Meanwhile, these comparatively young men have a great responsibility for several hundred men, their dependents, their welfare, their effectiveness as a defensive force. You'll realize ever more strongly that they need all the help they can get from you. Civic action is a particularly fertile field for advisory activities. Since most junk bases are near villages, the advisor has an opportunity to ensure that his counterpart sponsors activities such as MedCap and self-help projects. As an advisor, you may see the needs of the villagers and arrange for assistance. But for maximum psychological benefit to be obtained, the villagers must receive it from their government representatives, in this case, the junk base CO. While the people should know that you are their friend, the important, long-lasting effect of these activities is to strengthen their faith in their government, to see their needs, and to supply them. The MedCap unit may move into the village also. These people rarely see a doctor or a dentist in all their lives because there simply aren't enough to go around. Medical civic action is one of the most effective means we have of creating goodwill toward the junk base personnel and the cause of the Vietnamese government. You'll take part at every opportunity, doing all you can to let the people know we're their friends. But play down your part in order to enhance the image of the Vietnamese Navy. One self-help project that is usually appropriate is the construction of new or additional school facilities. In this area near Coastal Group 14, a small village of 45 families lived only a short time ago. With increased VC activity in the outlying areas, entire villages have moved to the protection of the area around the junk base. There are now over 1,200 families within a mile of the base. The village school was too small for so many children, and the CO of the junk base asked the U.S. advisor to help get materials so that the villagers might build a new school. The advisor was able to contact the USAID people, and basic minimum supplies have been provided: cement and roofing material. The villagers have made enough bricks to build the school, since USAID does not supply all the necessities. You can't get close to these people without realizing their great basic needs. And when you see the tangible results of this kind of civic action, you'll like this work, for nothing but good can come of it. At sunset, the base buttons up for the night. After duty hours, your counterpart may teach you to play Chinese chess. You'll find all Vietnamese are curious about you, including how you play games. At this game, be prepared to be a graceful loser. Bridge or poker is probably more your style. On some nights, it'll seem you have a choice between sweating all night and scratching all night here in the royal suite of the Mekong Hilton. You'll have mosquito repellent and a net besides to help you sleep. Well, no one promised you an air-conditioned holiday over here. Having a sense of humor helps. When the moon is down, sometimes Charlie will fire a few shots from the trees into the compound or harass the sentries. Occasionally, they'll cut the barbed wire or turn around the claymore mines used in base defense. And you wonder if one night they'll come at you in force. And so to bed. The principal mission of the junkies is coastal patrol, though occasionally they lift troops to trouble spots. Many sections of the coastline are very shallow, where even the small draft junks can't get to the beach. In this troop landing, which began at dawn, it was a long, wet walk to shore. In such operations, your job is to coordinate with the American Army advisor, as well as your Vietnamese naval counterpart. Comparing notes with the Army advisor, you'll probably find much in common. All of us expected too much of the Vietnamese at first. Now we're more realistic. We've begun to understand them and their problems and attitudes. We don't try to change things all at once. We combine patience with persistence, trying to instill the principle of leadership at each level. Sometimes it may be necessary to commandeer civilian junks and sampans to assist in these operations. They should be reimbursed for their inconvenience. After an operation, you may have suggestions to make for the future. The place to make them is in private. The way to make them is tactfully, with due regard to your counterpart's position as the responsible officer. You will have learned by now that Vietnamese commanders do not always have the latitude you are used to. They may be censured for taking initiative without approval from higher authority. You will have learned, too, that logistics are often difficult and reactions often slow. As an advisor with the junk force, you can improve things. That's what you're here for. To demonstrate the better way, to encourage its adoption, to help your unit become the best in the Vietnamese Navy.